nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
And it's actually time for Purple Access. Judd Zolgad, Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune sports columnist, executive producer Declan Goff, sponsored by our friends at Surly Brewing. You got to check it out. If you have not, if you're Chip or I, you probably drink a Surly every weekend, and so you are well aware that it's the best beer in town. And also by our friends at TCL TV. Enjoy the big game. I can't say the name because it's an advertisement. Enjoy the big game on Sunday with the Surly Chipper and on a TCL TV, and you'll have a perfect day.
Every weekend? I thought you were going to say every day.
I was going to say more often than that. Yeah, no. What the hell are you talking about, Judd? I enjoy a Surly.
I ain't waiting until Saturday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hey, that's good stuff. And of course, the Surly Furious is where it's at. Okay, Chip Scoggins, we've got the Super Bowl on Sunday. And then I guess more importantly, if you're the Vikings, that means that at some point next week, Kevin O'Connell can be introduced as the head coach. Shortly after that, we're going to also get, I would imagine, an announcement of, I think, the next hire I'm most curious about, defensive coordinator. Now, there have been reports that it might be, I think it was a couple days ago, one of three guys, and then a report from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, who we knew from his Pioneer Press days, Chipper, surfaced yesterday that that longtime DC and longtime defensive assistant in the National Football League, Ed Donatel, who is, I think, around 60 or so, in his 60s, that he was going to get the position. Your excitement, curiosity, pick your own word for the Vikings defense and the direction that it's going to go.
Yeah, I just looked it up before he came on here. I think Donatel is 65.
65, okay.
According to Wikipedia. I was thinking about this. Sorry, I think I was muted there. I was thinking about this the other day. Judd, is O'Connell interviewing these guys this week during the Super Bowl week?
I have no idea. I mean, I would imagine that he's involved by Zoom, right? Chipper, are you there?
Hold on.
Hang on, I can't hear you.
There you go. Oh, we had you.
Hey, there you are.
There you
are.
All good.
You're back.
Now I can hear you.
Now we're back.
Yeah. So
now we're back.
Is he interviewing these guys during the Super Bowl?
I would guess. I would guess that there's a Zoom component, probably. Like I'm sure that he's talking to them. Now, is he spending a long time in the process? I would guess no, but he's got to be involved. And I would think that they all have to be people that he knows, right?
Yeah. Well, I do wonder if during his interview process, you assume he said, "Hey, here's X number of guys that I would," and then Kwesi is probably doing a lot of the interview work for him too. I would think, right? Some of the vetting and
sure,
because I got to imagine Sean McVay is going to want his full focus on the Super Bowl and not interviewing people who's going to be on his staff. But it does, if it's Donatel, it does fit the profile of what we talked about last week, right? That you're more likely to see a veteran coach, a guy who's done it, be in that position. Because with a first-time head coach who's 36, you probably don't want a first-time defensive coordinator who's young, who really hasn't had that job. And so, I mean, I won't pretend to know a lot about Donatel other than he's done it a long time, and I know he's with the Packers early 2000s. Was he the DC on the Philadelphia 4th and 26?
You got him fired.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah.
You got him fired.
It's a long time ago, Judd. It's a long time ago.
Yes, he was.
But to me, I'm curious because I read that a lot of the guys they've looked at are 3-4 coordinators.
Yes, and Donatel ran that with Fangio in Denver this past year. They're all 3-4 guys.
So, I mean, that leads you down the road that this is what O'Connell wants, and it'd be interesting to see how their personnel matches up with that.
I agree completely. I am super curious about that and how guys are potentially used. And the thing too, though, Chip, is unlike when we were kids, if you played a 3-4 back then, you played a 3-4. Now you
Yeah.
play a 3-4 sometimes, then you might have a 4-man front, and then you might have a 2-man front.
Yeah.
So I do think that it would be a marked change. Like it would be a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's different than what it used to be because defenses now are so multiple compared to what they
Yeah.
used to be as well.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the definitions has gotten blurred a lot. I mean, it's just heck. I think even Zimmer talked about messing around with some of those concepts too when he was here. And but to me, I'm just curious. As I sit here and think about their defense, who's going to be left? Like who? If you go down there, Danielle Hunter, I think he's going to be here, but you have to get the contract worked out.
Yep.
The 2 tackles, I mean, are you going to bring both of the high-priced tackles back? I mean, I think probably, right? Who's your other defensive end? I mean, Barr's not coming back. I would assume Kendricks is coming back, but that'll be interesting to see how they approach that. So I'm just kind of curious, like, one, what that scheme's going to look like, but even more so, who the heck's going to be your core guys?
That's a great question. That's a great question with your veterans across the board, right? Like there's I mean, some people have to go. There's no way that you can just, I don't see a desire with a new GM and coach to run this back. So
Plus,
I think
just to interject, if these reports are right, and it's not just a smokescreen to increase Cousins' value, if he's back, then some guys are going to have to go. I mean,
absolutely,
the money is not going to work.
And I've heard conflicting, not reports. I've heard conflicting opinions is the best word on if Kendricks would fit in well to a 3-4. His contract, like I could see him gone. Hunter, I would think that you would do everything possible to keep, but it's an issue. Pierce and Tomlinson, do they both stay? I would guess that one might, but both might not. So I mean, there is, I continue to say this. I am so interested in what they're going to do because I still think that this is going to be one of the most interesting springs and summers from a Vikings perspective that we have seen in years, because there are going to be a lot of things that a new GM, new coach, and by the way, by extension, new executives from a football ops standpoint decide that they want to go as far as directionally.
And Jed, we've talked so much about Cousins, his contract, but let's focus on Danielle. He's lost. I mean, last year I thought he had a ton of leverage. He obviously lost a lot this year with the injury.
Yes.
But in his mind and his agent's minds, do you think that they agree with that?
No.
When they go looking for a deal? I mean, you think they're still going to want to be in that premier, I don't want to say Joey Bosa, but, are they going to want to be one of the highest paid defensive ends right now after 2 seasons that were disrupted?
I think the answer is yes. Don't you?
Probably. Now, whether they can come off that and they can find mutual ground, that's a different story. I think they should, because it's complicated. I mean, obviously he's a star, right? When he's healthy and on the field, he's your best defensive player, and he plays a premier position in the NFL right now, and everybody's looking for guys like him, and so there's a value that comes to that. But the injury situation has made this thing so complicated, and the way they structured that deal, it basically just said, "Hey, let's get back together again next year and figure this out."
I'm trying to find that right now. Yes, because that's exactly right. Okay, so
because the bonuses do win.
An $18 million bonus is due for him on the 5th day of the league year this year. So 5 days into March. I believe the first day, if I'm not mistaken, of the league year for 2022 is March 16th. So the bonus would be due approximately March 21st. At that time, the Vikings will have to make the decision to either pay him roughly $20 million in 22, release him, or come to terms on another rework contract. I don't see, much like with Kirk, I don't think they're going to just pay up. I think it's going to be probably a release / trade of some sort, and or probably preferably for them a rework contract.
Oh yeah. To me, I think it's
I'd rather keep it.
Oh, gotcha. The most obvious, the most obvious path is to rework him, get the 5-year deal, still make him, very well paid. But I just don't know if he's going to be in the same ballpark that he would have been that he wanted last year, because I think they have to be realistic. It's like,
do you think they're going to be though, Chip? I just don't see him being realistic.
I don't know.
Like if the neck was the problem again, I think they'd be in big trouble.
Oh yeah.
But it's not. And he was playing and he looked fine and then suffered a completely separate injury. And so I don't think that the Danielle Hunter camp is going to come back and say, well, it's been 2 years. I think they're going to point to bad luck. I think that but he remains a dominant player, and he's so damn good. And you're right. It's a premium spot. Like, it's not like, well, he's a nice player, but he plays linebacker,
safety.
Back.
Yeah,
exactly. Those are disposable positions. This one is one where it's so damn hard to find a guy. So I think that I honestly think, to me, this is the toughest decision that the Vikings are going to have to make, because I think it's more difficult than Kirk. Kirk, I'd be like, okay, he's gone. Danielle, I would not want to just say, you're gone.
Yeah, I think, to me, this one's, I think it's pretty, I don't think it's as complicated as Kirk's, because it's not as important as quarterback and the position. And I do think they'll be negotiating. It happens all the time. They'll ask for the moon. The Vikings will try to lowball it, and they'll find somewhere. I think Rob Brzezinski will come up with a number that works, and then they'll get that one done. But I do think, that is item number 2 on the list after you get done with Kirk, and then you figure out, then you go to, the Thielens, Kendrickses, Harrison Smiths, those guys, to see how they fit. How they fit both salary, age, and then just where they are as players.
But I just, the next thing that I'm really want to see, and I'm curious how it begins to unfold, is defense philosophy there. Because the thing about O'Connell and what the Vikings, I think, are going to do offensively, because they certainly have the skill position guys. I think that the offense was just flat out, especially in 2021, Chip, mismanaged. And so I think that there's a lot of things that you can do as far as looks, as far as philosophies, that can fix that. And it can go from being statistically good for individual stats to being effective far more often once you get past the scripted plays. The defense was at a place where it's just aging, there's, and look, when Mike had his fastball on defense, it was damn good. Like, it was fun to watch, but he had sort of lost the fastball, and they kept trying to bring guys back. And that's where I think you're really going to have to make a lot of changes.
Yeah. It felt like a boat with a hole in the bottom that you were trying to patch with duct tape.
Yeah.
And let's just keep bringing veteran guys in here. If we can just get better there.
Patrick Peterson,
it was mismanaged. And, I sit here and think about it, and I feel like I've just kind of been beating on this drum for so long, but it's like, Judd, I just don't see, you want that core in that 22 to 26-year-old range where you're building around these guys. Who is that on defense? Like, who are you building around on defense?
Like
offense.
Yeah. Okay, no, I'm trying to think of young. I'm trying to think of young guys
on their defense. They don't
actually. You bring up a great point, and this is one of the things that we're not talking about enough, but I think is going to be among the most interesting things, and to a certain point might vindicate Rick Spielman a bit in 2022. And it's this past year's draft class.
Yeah, terrible.
Like, what about it? They were held hostage for the most part. Like, they were not allowed. When you have that many third round picks who are not allowed to contribute, they were. And don't say, oh, they weren't prepared to play. You basically were saying the entire thing, aside from what, Chipper, Darisaw, Cam Bynum. To your question or your point, what young players are you going to embrace and build around? Adolfo Mensa and O'Connell are sort of going to be handed a secondary draft class of see what they got, because we sure as hell don't know.
Yeah. I think, as long as Danielle gets signed, I think he's the guy you build around. And then what? I mean, Kendricks is a nice player. He's an all-pro player, but
aging.
But he's aging. I mean, like 4 years. I said this. I threw this on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. Like, go through that too deep on defense.
Yeah.
And project out 4 years from now. 4 years. That's not a long time, but 4 years. Who on this defense do you think will be slam dunk core contributors?
Ooh, yeah.
I said Danielle. And
yeah, we talked about this. I mean,
I mean, Cam Bynum, maybe? I don't know.
Hopefully Dantzler. Hopefully, but I don't know. Boy, but I mean, he's a higher draft pick.
Is he a slam dunk?
Oh, hell no.
Is DJ Wanham a slam dunk? I mean,
no, Cam Bynum's not. I mean, I liked what I saw, but I saw it in such limited doses.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, we're just talking 4 years. We're not talking about
Chip in 4 years. If Danielle Hunter gets hurt one more time, you might just say, okay, this ain't gonna, like, at some point in time, the wear and tear, especially since it started with a neck problem, the wear and tear is going to become too much to be like, we'll bring you back. So in 4 years,
I would say not injuries. Yeah, I would say let's not forget injuries, because that could happen all the time, but just in terms of like age, salary, and production right now, and future production projecting, like, I think 4 years from now, Danielle will still be a terrific pass rusher, right? 4 years from now, Kendricks, Harrison Smith.
He'll be 31, so yeah, he should be.
Yeah. But it's like
they do
not have, because of missed draft picks, that they just don't have that 22 to 26-year-old, 25-year-old group that you're building around. And so, and you can't fix that in one draft. It's going to take, I think, a couple years to replenish that defensive talent. In addition to, if you're changing completely new schemes and all that.
Right. But that's fine. I have zero problem. I mean, this team, this roster needs work. Like, there's no question about it. It's got some young players, but the questions are this, especially to your point, defensively. Did they contribute? And when you look at the veteran core, it is aging out right now. No, I, in my opinion, if I had to predict or say what I hope that Kwesi said when they sat down and talked to him about this job, I hope he said, "Hey guys, your expectation that we can win consistently in 2022 is misguided." Like, I don't. Can they get better? Can they be more of a team? Absolutely. But that's the thing is, Vikings fans think because games were close in 21 that this team, like, if Zim had just been a better coach, the team would be fine. That's not true. This roster has problems.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing is, like, I think we have a tendency to obsess over the top 6 players and not look at the entire 53.
Yes.
And then also look at just the close games. But guess what? NFL games are close. All games are close. That's just how the NFL is. It's like,
right.
Even bad teams play close games. And so you can really, get a false sense of security by saying, oh, they were the Bengals. They should have beat the Bengals. They're in the Super Bowl. They should have won that game if Dalvin hadn't fumbled. Well, you can play that game all day, but you're not really taking a deep, serious look at your personnel on defense if you're going to think that defense as it was constructed is close to anything. I mean, it's not.
And I will give you from this past season an inexcusable loss that actually can't be pinned on the defense, the Cleveland loss. I believe you came down and scored scripted plays, and your offense went dormant at home against the Browns on a day that Baker Mayfield was injured and awful.
Terrible. Yeah.
But I mean, that's a close game. But if you point to, well, the Bengals game, look at that game. And then Arizona, the kicker cost us. Okay. The Browns lost. Inexcusable. A home game that you should have won. And that's the thing is people don't want to examine the reason why Rick and Mike for sure, but Rick was fired is because of losses like that. And what didn't you do right? And so I am very much prepared for this team to begin to reset its roster. And look, they should, but I think anybody who says, well, 22, I mean, I have expectations, put them away. Don't have expectations. It's gravy if you're successful.
Yeah, I wouldn't, if you sit here and said, what's their record going to be next year? It's like, well, who's their quarterback? It's hard to know what your expectations should be until you start seeing them move pieces around. But you look at their individual talent on offense and it's good enough that the sky is not going to fall on this franchise. Right. I mean, I just can't see the individual talent they have on offense that this thing's going to bottom out.
It depends. The answer to that question, I believe, depends on this. And we have no idea at this point. How much change are they planning? And are they planning to take a year of short-term hurt for potentially the greater good? So like the one
what way you mean with the quarterback or just overall?
I mean the quarterback, I mean veterans. Because you could jettison a lot of guys.
Well,
you could flat out say, call Ziggy, call Mark, and call Justin Jefferson, and flat out say, guys, this year's going to suck. But you know what? Because it sucks, we're going to be able to turn a corner quicker. Because I don't think that this team is going to become the Lions. I don't think there's long-term hurt. But I could see a year of saying, let's just cut bait with these guys right now. And we will go into 23 with more cap room and ability to spend than we know what to do with. It'll be great. That's a possibility.
That is a possibility. I mean, it would fly in the face of what Mark Will told us that first day. But it, as they get through it and start picking it apart with Kwesi, and he says, guess what, guys? This is the best forward. I know you're not going to like getting rid of this player or getting rid of that player because they're core guys and popular guys and good players, and they have a track record here. But if he sells them on the notion that this is the plan and this is the best path forward, maybe they'll agree with him.
In the words of one Craig Leopold, after Chuck Fletcher was dismissed as GM of the Wild, all we need are some tweaks. Yeah. And what do we all say? You're crazy.
You're crazy.
More than tweaks. And if Fenton hadn't got fired, he was destroying in a good way, or I should say dismantling, better word. Yeah. He was dismantling the roster. If you think that the Vikings need some tweaks, which some do, you're wrong. Yeah. They need substantial, and that's what they should. I mean, this sport, Chipper, this sport is the poster child for you don't run it back.
Yeah, we learned that. Yeah, I mean, it's
2010, and we were both wrong. We both thought, oh, good, they're going to bring people back. It'll be another great year, and we learned very quickly that was one of the dumbest assumptions I've ever made about a sports team.
Well, because the NFL is never static, and Brad Childress had that saying that we heard so much. We probably roll our eyes, but it's 100% true. Every season stands on its own merit. And it's if you think just because something happened last season and you can bring back the same pieces or most of the same pieces and you're either going to be the same or build on it, or you can't assume what happened last year is going to play out this year. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. And so, Yeah, I mean, it that's what we've said from the beginning. It's like they're going to have to take a honest look, and that's why I said they needed a fresh. To me, that was the whole thing about Spielman. I mean, the Zimmer answer was easy, right?
Yes.
But with the Spielman thing, is like you need a fresh perspective, unemotional, unbiased, come in here and have no, I mean, literally be a blank canvas and just say, this is what I think. This is what I think of your roster. And let that person deal with it accordingly. And so I'm curious. I mean, you can't get 53 new guys. There's only so much change you can do, but you certainly can be aggressive in trying to reshape it and not kind of, do little deals here and there. But I mean, you're right. I mean, this thing needs an aggressive mindset in terms of how you're going to fix the roster.
And I feel like we far too often fall back on the word rebuild, which I'd like to dismiss. Like that word,
it's a negative word, Judd. It's a negative word.
Negative. Yeah. But reset, retool, pick a more positive word, which is fine. Yeah. But that's what this team needs. And look, this team took a shot too. Like they took their shot. The Cousins signing was taking a big time shot. It didn't work, and I get that. But at some point in time in the evolution of what the Vikings did, it's going to fall apart, and it has now. And what you need to do is not grasp at, well, if we could just bring back Harrison Smith because we really like him, and blah, blah. No, the entire reason to bring in a new coach, new GM, new front office football operations people is predicated on doing exactly that. And so that's why I'm very excited. I'm not excited because I think it's going to work perfect and they're going to win a Super Bowl. We have no idea. I have no clue. I'm excited because much like with teams in this town, this is not the first time that we've seen it's necessary to bring in fresh blood to make decisions. And that in itself, to me, as a curious sports fan, is the most interesting thing.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see like Kwesi and his staff that he puts together, and I assume they do this, like attach value to positions in terms of monetary, like
which he likes doing.
Yeah, and I remember when Zimmer had the preseason, I think it was the coaches meeting, or own meeting somewhere. Someone asked him about having Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris and all that money. He's like, well, yeah, it's not ideal to have that much tied up into safety, because if you were ranking the position on defense, safety wouldn't be at the top. And it's like he was almost admitting like this was a flawed flawed idea. Yes. Yeah, it was like I think it was the year. Did they franchise Anthony Harris? What was it they did that year?
Yes, it was. Yes. Which was a monumental mistake.
So it was that spring in an owner meeting, and Zimmer got asked about it, and he said, yeah, if you're ranking defensive positions, safety would not be at the top of them.
Yep.
But yet they had tied up a lot of money in that position, and so it'll be curious to see the different philosophies that this regime has, and if that dictates roster moves. If they're like, you know what, we can't have this much money tied up in a running back or safety or a linebacker or whatever, however they do it. And if that kind of guides their decision making and how they handle some of these veterans that are, have pretty big contracts.
And I think the thing too is great players and star players are stars. Like Jefferson's a star player, and he's going to be good for a long time, and it's going to be fun to watch him. But I think what you have to do is you have to have, especially a GM who's able to separate himself so that when a player does start to decline, or just because you like him, you can't just say we're keeping him. I mean, Zimmer, for all his faults, unfortunately for him, I think one big fault was loyalty, especially to defensive guys, right? And he doesn't have and didn't have that Belichickian gene to say, I like you, but you're gone. And so that's going to be, and I think it's going to bother some fans here, because I think that they are going to start to cut bait on guys who are more popular and have been probably kept here in the past. But one thing in this sport is it's far better to cut a guy or trade a guy a year early than to wait and continue to pay him. And then it's just like a weight on your roster.
Well, yeah, you're right. And that's I mean, Belichick was genius of that. I mean, it's ruthless, but I mean, they're the masters of getting a guy a year early than a year late. And that's kind of the old adage in the NFL. And it does take hard decisions, but it takes a Billy Guerin-esque move to say, you know what? Guess what? Yeah, everybody knows I'm getting rid of Zach Parise, but I'm getting rid of Ryan Suter too. And you think, man, that's kind of crazy, or that's bold, but guess what? It worked. It was the right move.
100%.
Yeah.
Because it impacted the room. It impacted the room. And Guerin's point too, because he took a ton of heat for, well, the salary cap hits are going to be, I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? And his point, and he's right, was, guys, we're going to have to pay the piper at some point. We're electing to do it now. But he's like, there's no like it wasn't like Suits was magically going to disappear from the cap because he stayed here. And but those are the type of decisions. Like, I feel like the whole Kirk thing has turned into, I don't know, a political, at times religious, but a very personalized discussion. And my point is, it's not. You're talking about a player, and can he do his job on the field and off? And that's all that matters. Not what his beliefs are or aren't. I don't care about that. Can you win me games? And are you doing things right? And in Suter's case, he was bought out largely because they felt off the ice he was doing damage.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, not just Cousins, but in these situations, Judd, I think it's the fear of the unknown.
But that's where you got to go.
Oh, you could get, and that's the thing. It's like you can't allow that to paralyze you in decision making. You can't allow that to be like, well, who's going to be the quarterback, or what if you draft the next Ponder, or what if you just get a guy who's not as good as Cousins? It's like, well, then go pick another line of business, because if you're going to be paralyzed by the unknown, then you're not going to be able to pull the trigger on these deals that you have to pull the trigger on.
Yes, and Rick Spielman is no longer in the building. Now, if Rick had stayed and said, Rick Spielman's going to draft you your next QB, I would have said, you're crazy.
No!
That's a bad idea. No, my fear there on a scale of 1 to 10 would have been a 12, but he's gone. And so, yes, you are hiring new people because you're confident. In fact, I tweeted something in the past week about Kevin O'Connell, because I've read this. One of his calling cards is abilities with quarterbacks and to identify them. And I tweeted that out, and I got these notes back. You don't know that. What do you know about his ability? My point was, if you have decided Kevin O'Connell can't find or can't help to find your next QB, then call him up and tell him, stay with
Why'd
the
you hire
Rams.
him?
Yeah, exactly right. So, but there's all of these things at work here. And look, Rick Spielman, I think a big part of the truthful reason why he was fired was quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
so like you're exactly
that's his
right.
legacy. Yeah, and some of it was not his fault. I mean, you can't help that Teddy blew out his knee. Now, was Teddy ever going to be the guy that they envisioned? I don't know.
But Cousins didn't work, and that is his fault.
He drafted Ponder, and he kind of chased things there for a while. But that to me, that is a big part of Kevin O'Connell, like the whole interview process.
I hope
like,
so.
Hey, man, and Kwesi too is like, how are you going to find the franchise quarterback? I mean, how are you going to get that guy? Because, I mean, unless you're just great everywhere else, like Matthew Stafford, I think he's a fine quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I don't, but you surround him with that defense and different things and the scheme and structure and everything, and he's in the Super Bowl. Are you going to find a Joe Burrow? You're going to have to draft probably top 5 to get him. But look what he's done for that franchise. Yes. Think about how the people of Cincinnati feel about their organization right now for the next 10 years with that guy as your quarterback. And so, this is going to be, it's not the only thing, but it's a huge component of whether this regime, Kwesi and Kevin O'Connor, are going to succeed or fail, is whether they can get that right.
O'Connell is being hired largely because of that. It's that simple.
Yes.
Like there's no other, well, he's got a lot of intangibles with left tackles. You should see him with left tackles. He's being hired because you trust that he can help you. And the thing too, and I think people they don't get confused because it's obvious, but I think it gets buried is this one. It's not just Joe Burrow. It's also the contract.
Yes.
Like
the best thing in sports. The best thing in sports. A great quarterback on a rookie contract.
Exactly. But the Kirk fans get so threatened by that as if you're attacking Kirk. I'm attacking any quarterback who eats up way too much cap space and can't clearly win you games. Like the statement, the win-loss statistic being attached to a quarterback is unfair is probably true. Unfortunately, when the quarterback is going to make a very significant portion of your cap, I have no choice but to attach that. The only way to get around that is to unattach that and have a quarterback who's on a rookie contract. So like this is where the dance lies in. And this is where it becomes extremely important. I will say this, Chipper, in retrospect now. In fact, this might be a column for you. In a retrospect now, the 2018 or 19, whatever year Jalen Ramsey, I think it was 19, was traded. Collar and I said back then, the Vikings should go get him and pay the price. And and here's why. The window of opportunity and the assumptions about that, right? The Rams chased him, and look, they're crippled now with draft picks. I don't even know that I would want to be them, but you know what they're preparing for? A Super Bowl. The Vikings almost like went into the shallow end with Kirk, but then it's like, no, go deeper, go. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't give up our picks. It's as if Rick was trying to serve the development master and the in now master. And it's interesting that the Rams have been like, screw it, we are in, and it's going to cost them at some point.
Well, that's the thing. They're like,
but if they have the Lombardi Trophy, do they give a crap?
That's the thing. Is like that parade will be worth it. Don't worry about what comes next. We'll rebuild in time. And no, they went all in. I mean, just absolutely went all in, and they're going to have to pay for it in the future. But you're right. If you have this moment of history and joy, and now they got to win. They don't win it, it's going to feel like a kick in the shins. But I mean, it's the Vikings went, and we felt like they went all in with coming. I mean, hell, you come off a NFC Championship game appearances and you go spend that kind of money on a quarterback. I feel like that's all in. It's just subsequently mismanaged the roster.
Yes.
And it just it created too many flaws in the roster that they just weren't able to overcome. And so to me, this is the most fascinating, and not obviously when you have a whole regime change that we haven't had in 12 years or how long Spielman was here, it's going to be fascinating. But this just feels like a crossroads moment for the Vikings.
Yes. And it's time to stop trying to serve two masters. Like you can say, we're trying to win. But if you really do that, and then you're like, but we got to rebuild too a little bit or retool. It's time to have an administration and a coaching staff that says, here's the plan. The Vikings sort of lost the plan.
Yeah.
Like the plan was, we're going to draft 15. I mean, Rick was drafting 15 or 12 guys. And at the meantime, and Mike wouldn't play them. And so
no, it felt like they got thrown in there just doggy paddling, trying to stay afloat. I mean, that's what the last couple of years it felt like.
The third round picks are all like on milk cartons.
Yeah. Once you remove yourself from it and you kind of look back the last couple of years, it's like, man, it just felt like they were grasping at straws, like just trying to tread water to stay afloat. And so reset. That's exactly what you said. Reset this roster in a way that really gives you flexibility to try to move forward 2023, 2024, 2025.
Amen, brother. All right. What are you going to be drinking during the big game on Sunday? Are you going to be drinking one of these?
Oh, yes.
IPA?
I'm making a trip to Kansas to see the daughter and taking a KU
Look at
basketball
you.
game on Saturday, up early to drive back for Super Bowl on Sunday. But you guarantee Friday afternoon before I head out, there will be a beer run to get my Surly Furious to make sure I'm stocked up.
I got a small suggestion, and it's not huge, but it's small. Surly Variety Pack is out, and I'm going to give you one of the 4 beers right now. It's fantastic. Hyper Modern Idaho 7 IPA. Okay.
Really?
Yes. It is described as the tropical citrus divide with notes of melon, pineapple, and tangerine. I tried it because I was like, that sounds okay. Their people tried this, like brewed this, home run.
Genius.
Give it a try. I'm dead
try it.
serious. It's really good. It's really
I'll
good.
look for it.
All right, sir. Enjoy KU, and I'll talk to you next week, Chip Scoggins.
All right, brother. We'll see you.
See ya. Bye.